Welcome, viewer. Imagine being 10 years old lying on the floor of Westminster Abbey, while a group of old men chant Latin at you and you have no idea what is going on. Congratulations, you have just become King of England. This is the story of Richard II, the beautiful boy king who went from child monarch to tyrant to forgotten prisoner in a northern castle. And it all starts with peasants, poll taxes and one seriously unhinged sense of fashion. Richard became king in 1377, aged 10. The Black Death had wiped out half the population, the French were raiding the coast, taxes were crushing the poor, and John of Gaunt, his uncle, was basically doing a live trial run for dictatorship. Welcome to medieval England, where being born royal guarantees power, and being born poor guarantees a lifetime of mud and plague. Now, what do you do when you have had 3 poll taxes in 4 years and each one makes less sense than the last? You burn London. Enter the Peasants' Revolt of 1381. The first time the working class looked at the ruling elite and said, "No, we are not doing this anymore." Led by a man called Wat Tyler, yes, that is his actual name and not a fortnight skin, and John Ball, a radical priest with communist vibes before it was cool, the rebels stormed cities, burned tax records, and casually beheaded the Archbishop of Canterbury. As you do. And what does 14-year-old Richard do? He rides out alone to face 30,000 angry peasants at Mile End, tells them they are all free, and sends them home. Heroic? Yes. Smart? Well, the next day he revokes all promises, calls them wretches, and says they will stay peasants forever, only worse. Top tip, never trust a teenage monarch who owns more gold-threaded tunics than you have had hot dinners. Richard was not your average king. He believed in divine monarchy and looked like a medieval Calvin Klein model. 6 feet tall, golden hair, and dressed like Liberace on mushrooms. One time he wore a satin suit covered in silver seashells. Because nothing says serious king like looking like a glam clam. As he got older, Richard started dishing out land, money and titles to his mates like they were sweets. The actual nobles, his uncles, were fuming. They forced him to sack his favourite ministers, and when that did not work, they raised an army, beat him, and briefly deposed him in 1387. But Richard waited, and when they least expected it, boom, he arrested them, executed one, murdered another in Calais under very suspicious towel-related circumstances, and banished the rest. Move over, Joffrey. This is how a real tyrant throws a tantrum. Enter stage left, Henry Bolingbroke. Cousin, banished noble and all-round fed-up Lancastrian. When Richard stupidly went to Ireland in 1399, Henry invaded England with 300 men and somehow took the entire country before Richard could even find a boat back. When they finally met at Flint Castle, Richard literally saw Henry coming over the hill and said, "Well, that is the end of me." Accurate. Richard was deposed by Parliament, Henry became Henry IV, and Richard was locked in Pontefract Castle, where he probably starved to death or was murdered, or both. To prove he was dead, they paraded his corpse through the streets like a really grim Uber Eats delivery and then buried him. Eventually, he was reburied at Westminster Abbey, presumably because even tyrants deserve a do-over. Richard II ruled with bling, belief and brutal repression. He loved pageantry, thought he was divinely appointed, and forgot one key medieval rule. Do not alienate literally everyone with a sword. So next time you're having a rough day, just remember, at least you were not crowned at 10, ruled during plagues and riots, and then got exiled by your cousin and buried twice. So, what did we learn today? We learned that crowning a child king in a collapsing society is not ideal. We learned that if you promise freedom to 30,000 peasants, maybe do not immediately call them wretches the next day. We learned that wearing seashells and declaring divine rule does not stop people from marching you out of a castle in handcuffs. And most importantly, we learned that if your cousin Henry says, "I only want my land back," he is absolutely coming for your job. In short, do not tax the poor, do not trust your cousins, and maybe leave the divine right cosplay at home. Follow for more history drenched in sarcasm and dread.